I've been wanting to discuss some of the best films I have seen which have been released in the last few years or so. So as a result, Anne Hui's 2017 film Our Time Will Come is receiving a very glowing endorsement on this program. Anne Hui is one of the most celebrated figures in Hong Kong cinema. I have seen a few of her films, very impressive, and still, this film might be the one she has directed which most resonated with me. Apparently based on true events during the Japanese occupation of Hong Kong, this film's screenplay, written by He Jiping, chronicles Fang Lang, portrayed by Zhao Xin, and her efforts in organizing the resistance movement against the occupying powers. Much more than that, this storyline focuses on Fang's relationship with her mother, her fiancé, and the resistance leader. I noted a review which compared this film to Casablanca, which I think is an astute comparison, actually. Our Time Will Come is hardly a cheer in the sense of what we tend to think of Casablanca as. It is closer to a grueling historical war epic, character study, plausibly descended from David Lean, among other things. Ulick Wai's cinematography helps elevate this grand narrative into one of the most evocatively filmic historical dramas ever composed. Anne Hui puts forth this idea that new technology can only improve cinematic traditions, even elevate and transform them into new precedents for filmmaking altogether. There are countless pictures leading up to the existence of something like Our Time Will Come, although Anne Hui is certain that those films, rather than close the door on further attempts at competition, deserve to be dethroned. It is what they would want. In every facet, performances, staging, pacing, photography, music, and just general narrative engagement, Our Time Will Come competes with any historical epic film I've ever seen, including those from David Lean. It might not quite match the affect of the most relentlessly brutal come and see-esque war films I have seen, but it doesn't have to. It is a different breed of picture. One film which I consider to be a competitor was released the year afterward, 2018's The Chrysanthemum and the Guillotine, directed by Takahisa Zeza. Perhaps he viewed Anne Hui's film, I certainly would not be surprised. One element of this film I found fascinating was its frame narrative. It appears to craft a mock documentary intro where a black and white filter depicts an interviewee, an aging taxi driver, relaying this film's narrative body. I wholly suspect some would believe that there are political analogues to the contemporary in this film relating to the independence of Hong Kong. I don't want to claim anything outright, I won't put any words in Anne Hui's mouth, although I would not be surprised if that subtext is read into Our Time Will Come. Put it like that. Its release apparently coincided with the 20th anniversary of the Hong Kong handover from the UK, so there was certainly some political consideration at play, if not but mildly. I was almost saddened by the film, however, because it felt like such a deliberate attempt at an end-of-career opus by a veteran filmmaker that it seemed to imply that Anne Hui was at the end of her artistic trajectory. Fortunately, she has released a feature film since then, although unfortunately, I haven't seen it yet. And to be honest, no matter the quality of that film or any she puts out subsequently, her place in history, as far as I'm concerned, is assured. Obviously, with The Boat People, A Simple Life, and especially with the Golden Era, Anne Hui was making claims for posterity, where Our Time Will Come is more than a claim, it is irrefutable proof. Do me a favour, post in the comments your favourite films of the last 10 years or so. I want titles with which I can compare this film's quality to. Where is the competition for most impressive filmic masterpieces of the last 10 odd years in cinema? I can think of maybe 7 or so titles, but just those. Narrative cinema may have been refined and perfected to a point where we truly cannot help but move on from it now. It reminds me of the ending featured in 1929's The Iron Mask, Alan Dwan and Douglas Fairbanks' final collaboration, the silent swashbuckler to end all silent swashbucklers. Although it was more aware of its format's dissolution than Anne Hui most likely feels about grand historical romance narratives, it is still a graceful transition into the future, whether it was intended to be one or not. Our Time Will Come ends as our taxi driver Framer departs into the metropolitan wilderness of his city, one of millions of stories, as the final shots of the film depict buildings containing people rather than people or a person. Again, whether Hui intends to or not, an audience, I suspect, is intuitively encouraged to seek out or create new stories which demonstrate the contemporary network of a place, especially after Hui attempts to solidify, via a historical narrative, what it was that initially defined, distinguished the spirit of this place, Hong Kong. Anne Hui delivers a possibly unintended message of, stop dwelling on the artistic past, I've superseded it in its own format, rendered it vaguely irrelevant, now move on into the future. Okay, yes, so she may not have intended it at all. Yet I feel the film is about the future, rather than the past or even the present, and demonstrates an encapsulating drama which defines the past, points to the present, and welcomes the future with faith. The same faith which enabled the Hong Kong resistance in the 1940s, which empowered An Hui to create films in the first place, and that could still motivate the people of Hong Kong into developing a noble future.